Greetings, Skill Incarnate bringing you all the latest indie gaming goodness. Welcome back as we look at another indie game. This time we're checking out Will Roll Reforged. This game was developed by 1917 Studios and is published by Valkyrie Initiative. These guys worked on the excellent indie souls-like Skelethrone, the Chronicles of Ericona, a game I previously reviewed and highly recommend. Will Roll is a mix of visual novel, turn-based strategy and survival game, wrapped up in the bloody medieval age. The question is, do these different genres mix together? And I can report that they do. The game has overwhelmingly positive reception on Steam, with players loving the weighty decision making and excellent story. I've been loving the campaign, and I'm eagerly awaiting the new DLC. While we wait, we're going to check out the campaign of Will Roll Reforged. The character creation system in Will Roll is very robust. There's a lot of moving parts and a little bit of RNG. So, in the interest of saving time, I've created a new character. Now my character Skill Incarnate is a bit of a jack of all trades. In terms of talents, I am a herbsman. I can gather both medicinal herbs and more nefarious mixes like poisons. I'm a musician, a very useful skill for ingratiating yourself both with the common man and with the nobility. I'm a haggler, allowing me to do some trade when the need arises with the various factions in the game. And finally, I'm a woodsman, a very useful skill allowing me to scavenge from the surrounding area with less of a penalty to fatigue. Now all of these other skills we can pick up as we go through the game. But I find that these crafting skills have served me quite well. Now in terms of virtue, I'm not a saint. At the start of the game, you have a very low virtue, and depending on your actions through the campaign, you will raise or lower the virtue and also your prestige. Do you want to be remembered as a white knight, a shining beacon of morality, or are you just trying to get the job done by any means necessary? I kind of lean towards the latter a bit, but I'm going to try and be a good guy where I can. Now finally, in terms of weapons and physical skills, I have a strength of 3 and an agility of 2. I have some skill in melee weapons, and we're going to move into crossbows later on. I'm going to wait until I get some better equipment before we start looking at ranged combat. Now having a look at my inventory, I am mainly focusing on polearms, in this case spears. And I've gone for a very balanced sort of build. Offense and defense. And I found this has kind of served me well. Now that we are properly equipped, we're going to go and do a bit of training. Now training and any other action you take within the game will impact your fatigue. And you can see here my fatigue is empty. When we train, when we complete quests, when we fight, our fatigue raises. And going into battle with a high fatigue is a recipe for disaster. But we have a bit of time before our next event, so we're going to use it to increase our melee skill. Unfortunately, I don't have the reputation to do some sparring with the other soldiers, and I don't have the money to get some proper training, so it's solo practice for me. Now as you can see, that has drastically increased my fatigue, so what we need to do now is get a bit of rest. Now we can do a number of things. We can hang around, and this just means that we're going to rest, and we're going to decrease our fatigue. We can gamble, which means we can rest and also ingratiate ourselves with the soldiers, make a few mates. We can drink if we have the right amount of alcohol on us, which we don't currently, and we can pray. Now, praying will increase your virtue, but if you do it too many times, the soldiers are going to lose respect for you. So it's a bit of a balancing act. Do you want to try and raise your virtue at the cost of your respect with the men? Become a lone wolf, a icon of morality, or do you want to be one of the boys? I think the answer kind of lays somewhere in the middle. If you kind of get into the gambling and the drinking too much, that's going to obviously have problems of its own, and if you pray too much, other soldiers are going to be less inclined to help you in battle. So next thing we're going to do is we are going to have a chat to the sergeant, who is one of my favourite characters. Despite his grumbling and also dissatisfied look, the sergeant treats the soldiers very well and tries to make sure that everything is in order. You find him doing the usual, cleaning weapons. Noticing you, he looks up inquiringly. You're going to ask him about the war. As if there's something to tell, really. The king set off on a grand campaign to the mainland. France is now at its weakest point ever, which represents a golden opportunity to claim a sizable piece of land from those frog eaters. So the sergeant does not like the French. You and I, however, have nothing to rejoice about. The pay is good this time, but I strongly doubt this war will be easy. In and out, 20-minute adventure. Good money, warm bed, and rich spoils. The last time I fell for this recruiter sales pitch, I ended up in the mountains in Scotland with holes in my boots, a void in my stomach, and an arrow in my knee. Casual Skyrim reference. I still don't understand how I managed to not die then. The Earl and I miraculously got back alive. But we kicked the Highlanders' asses so badly they can't sit. Now we can ask him about equipment. If you manage to find yourself at war with your pants down, you don't have many options. Take a look around the camp. Someone might have a spare gambeson, a chainmail, or a shield. Most soldiers would be happy to sell their wear or trade loot for a shiny coin, but to find something useful amongst the junk is mostly a matter of luck. The second option, of course, is to loot it yourself. Scavenging corpses like a vulture isn't the most honourable act, but sometimes survival demands it. I try to make sure my people are decently equipped, but I don't have time to wipe each and every one of your snotty noses even if I wanted to. If you prove yourself a decent lad, I'll see what I can do for you. So now we can ask about tactics. Now the sergeant has a wealth of information for people that are paying attention. What a stupid question. Naturally, everything depends on your physical abilities, skills, and fighting style. Okay, since you've never held anything sharper than a table knife in your hands, let me explain to you what is what in a nutshell. No matter what they told you in childhood fairy tales about knights and their beautiful fat-assed maidens, I really do like this guy. In reality, the sword is far from the best choice on the battlefield. I mean, this game absolutely takes political correctness and throws it to the wolves. I love it. It's a decent all-round weapon, but its versatility makes it mediocre at everything. The sword can do everything at once, but is inferior to other weapons in any area. True. I find that you want to try and focus on either a heavy weapon or a nimble weapon. If you're a smart fella and not a smart smeller, your choice is an axe. Those can chop the enemy into pieces so fine you can make a stew. Yes, you can't really fight with it. It requires a lot of strength, especially if you're fighting more than a couple of minutes, but it's a good axe. It's pure power. Especially in those cases when the enemy is clad in decent armour or is cowering behind a shield. Like a timid lass hiding behind a dress. Hey, I'm using a shield. A good axeman cannot be stopped by things like that. A couple of good swings can shatter any shield. Kinda make me think I should have gone for the axe. Another solid option is some kind of club or mace. But then again, everything depends on your strength. If you're packing some serious muscle, then your strikes will be dropping people like sacks of excrement. Mace-like weapons are also good at draining your enemy's stamina. You know what they say, one in the liver, one to the dome. Bad guy is dead, we're going home. I'm going to use that, that's brilliant. What do they say? Two in the head, you know they're dead. But with all of this, only applies if you can actually lift. If you're so unfamiliar with the gym that you call it James, then yes, forget axes and maces. Go for something lighter. I mean, did gyms exist in the medieval ages? I'm guessing they had some sort of workout, but I don't think the gym was a thing. The best option is spears, hands down. Here. Why do you think I'm rocking one? They are perfect for keeping the enemy at a comfortable distance, easy to feint with, all while slowly making Swiss cheese out of him with swift pokes. A poke here, a stab there, a couple of words about his mum, and a brief mention of his sister. Hurt your enemy both physically and mentally, and victory is just around the corner. Have I mentioned I like this guy? It is what it is. Okay, so we've asked him about tactics. How should I behave in battle? The first thing you need to remember is caution. Generally you need to hurry only in two cases in life. When you want to get to the tavern before closing and when you're caught short. Can relate. None of it, as you may guess, has anything to do with war. Make it a rule to carefully study your opponent before you act. Do not immediately rush at him. First assess the situation. Look what he's armed with, what he's wearing, and how he behaves in battle. Try to find his vulnerabilities and only then take the risk. Defensive action will be good strategy against most opponents. If the enemy is aggressive, stay cool and let him swing all he wants. Use feints, knock him down with your shield, and kick his ass when you get the opportunity. Sooner or later, he'll get tired, and when this happens, you will crush him. However, do not forget that war is not a knightly tournament, but a cruel meat grinder. There are no rules, no honour, and the main task here is just to survive. Do not be a coward, but do not ask for trouble. Soberly assess your strength and the strength of the enemy, and I'm sure Lady Luck will smile upon you. So we've talked to our friend the Sergeant, and we've got one more person I want to talk to, who is the Blacksmith. Now, I could talk to the Earl, but he's not really going to talk to us now. Our prestige is not high enough. Who are you? What do you need? I'm looking for a blacksmith. We found him and he has his hands full. Now spit it out or get lost, and don't distract me from work. I need to repair my equipment. I think you have it mixed up, boy. Do I look like your personal blacksmith? Damn knights have our buried up to our throats in their broken junk, and we're sweating our asses off. And here you come asking. I'm not asking you to help for free. I'm willing to pay well for a job well done. What a smartass. I would gladly pay for a job well done, from my own pocket. It's a shame that no one around here can actually do that. Let's make a deal. You do 3 shifts at the forge to help me out, and I'll take a look at your junk. I'll pay you for every shift too. If your hands aren't growing out of your ass, you may earn some decent coin. Working at the forge is a camp activity that acts as a temporary part-time job. Now this one increases fatigue because obviously we're working at the forge, but most importantly, we get craftsmanship experience. That means I can build, I can craft, I can make things. And this is something that is very, very useful for my type of character. So now that we've spoken to all of the characters, we're going to do a little bit of... Let's do a little bit of resting, because we're very tired. Now, I can pray, but you can see if you pray too many times, you will get additional virtue. Your morality will go up, but watch what happens with the soldiers. Self-withdrawal from the life of your regiment causes you to lose comrade respect. So we want to try and, you can pray, you can raise your virtue, but make sure that you don't overdo it. We want to get into the social activities, do a bit of drinking, do a bit of gambling if you have to, but also be aware that these things can also introduce other problems. Too much drinking, too much gambling. Some of the soldiers can kind of get into some, let's say, less than legal activities, which we can also get involved in. And we're going to see that in the future. But for now, let's... what I'm going to do is going to work at the forge. And as you can see, our 2 shifts at the forge has increased our craftsmanship. Looking at our character now, our craftsmanship has gone up to 1, but we are very tired from working at the forge. So let's have a rest. We can hang around. We're going to gamble. And gambling, even though it is a really good way to reduce fatigue, you can lose a lot of money here. It is Lady Luck. You are at her mercy, so let's work at the forge. Now we have worked the 3 shifts at the forge, so we can now talk to our friend the blacksmith. Nice job. Job's easy, money's good, piece of cake. Come visit me again. If you got nothing to do, there's always work to be done. What about repairing my equipment? I almost forgot. Right, give it here, your junk, but money first. These are horrible times we live in. Ain't a soul you can trust, especially when it comes to scrawny ragamuffins like you. I'm not a scrawny ragamuffin. Is that so? Well, Hoggard's not a ragamuffin either, and yet he refused to pay. About 2 weeks back, that drunkard parody of a knight commissioned me to get him a chest for spoils and trophies. Since then, he's constantly pushing me to get work done faster, even try giving me advice. And guess what? Finally get the damn thing done, the fella refuses to pay. Now this is a very, very useful item, and I think we're going to buy it for ourselves. How much did Hoggard promise you for the chest? We settled on 60 florins, but given the circumstances, I'd happily part with it for half the amount. The chest will be a secondary inventory, so this is going to be very, very useful. We are going to buy this. I'll buy it. We want more storage. We want to try and gather as many things as we can, both for using items in the field and crafting. Great then, you can have it. Now we can ask the blacksmith about earning more money. If you've got any work for me, I'd be ready to help out. I need some money. I've always got work, as long as you're not a clumsy dork. I'm not a clumsy dork. Do you know what all clumsy dorks have in common? They all believe they're not. What on earth are you even on about? Didn't I just recently help you at the forge? I don't recall you having a single complaint. That work was a piece of cake. Anyone can do it. If you want to earn some proper cash, you got to step up your game, son. Okay, lay it on me, brother. Start using not only the hands, but that tiny head of yours, which proves to be too hard for some people. If you're not up to some real work, then head to the forge and run some errands, but if you're ready, let me know. There's some real money to be made. I'm ready. I like your confidence. Well, listen here. I've got a highly specific order. The customer wants combined armor, a leather jacket with chainmail overlay. He wants it to be sturdy. Torso armor no lower than 10. Torso cover no lower than 90. Limb should be well protected. Limb armor no lower than 6 and limb cover no lower than 30. Finally, it has to look nice. 7 or more prestige. If you can craft one, I'll buy it for you. I'll buy it from you for whatever it's worth, plus an additional 70 florins as compensation. Now, we can make this armor, but not now. So we have the option, once our prestige and our crafting ability is sufficient, obviously my prestige isn't high enough and my crafting ability is nowhere near what we need, but we can get some better armor. But for now, we get continue training, continue getting ready for the next story event. Now that we've met everyone of interest in the camp, our goal is to continue training and preparing for the upcoming battle. Now we are a very lowly trained, lowly equipped footman. The odds are against us and the survivability of the upcoming battle is very, very suspect. Our only chance is to increase our training, increase our weapon proficiency, and somehow give ourselves a bit of a chance to survive this very dangerous battle coming up. Now we have a choice of being virtuous or maybe engaging in some more duplicitous activities. But for now, we're going to rest, recover our strength, and maybe gamble ourselves a bit of cash. Not too bad. I mean, I won more than I lost. So now we'll do a bit more training. And we've increased our melee proficiency to 5. Now I would like to get my melee proficiency up to 7 or 8. But that's wishful thinking. You can do a little bit of praying. And a little bit of gambling. I mean, it seems like an oxymoron. I'm spending a few hours in the church and then I'm going out and doing a bit of gambling. Having spent a bit of time in the camp, you gradually get to know and make friends with various people, including several other young men drafted for the militia. All of you have quite a lot in common, including the fact that originating from poor families, you were forced to go to war without anything remotely resembling decent weapons or armor. One of the guys going by the name of Bartholomew has a rather shady past, suggests you fix this situation and presents you with a plan. His idea is to borrow the necessary equipment from someone who is not in such dire need as you, the guards of Castle Dunkirk, which is towering above your camp. According to Bartholomew, the men guarding the castle are guards in name only. They've been drafted from the surrounding countryside just as the war started, and they can barely tell which side of the halberd goes toward the enemy. Security is as bad as it gets, so sneaking into the armory of the far tower should be a piece of cake. Everything else would be figured out on sight. Bartholomew claims he will take care of any locks that can be found. So, you just have to grab and carry away as much armor and weapons as you please. Several soldiers are rather impressed and are willing to try. They already plan to pull it off this night. Bartholomew looks at you. Now remember the part where I said that my character tends to sway you towards the more nefarious deeds when required. I figure as long as I'm not actually deleting anybody, then all's fair. If they want to send me as a peasant out to war with nothing but a sharp stick, then they can't complain when I try and level the playing field. You and several other soldiers are willing to take part. Bartholomew insists you don't dilly-dally and go at midnight. Now there's another reason why I'm doing this mission, and that's because Bartholomew is a bro, and we can actually get him as a bro and he will follow you and fight with you, and he's actually a really good character. He has a lot of useful abilities, and if you don't mind committing the odd bit of crime, then he's actually a really good companion to have. You agree to meet at the Watchtower at midnight. Now I have lowered my virtue, but the soldiers' respect for me has increased. Nothing like a little bit of robbing to earn yourself some friends. So now what we can do is go into the quests. and we now have a heist. So if we go to travel, we can go to the watchtower. As agreed, you depart from the camp and arrive at the furthest watchtower at midnight. Bartholomew and a couple of other soldiers are already waiting for you. Bartholomew, clearly skilled at local geography, confidently leads you along a hidden path through a ravine and a dense thicket of bushes. After a quarter of an hour this way, you finally find yourself in the tower through the secret entrance. Inside, Bartholomew once again instructs you, forbidding you to take any sounds and requiring you to move completely silently. Trying to find the weapon room in the endless maze of passages, doors and stairs that represent the interior of the tower, you find yourself on the creaking plank floor of one of the galleries. One by one, your comrades manage to carefully walk on it without making any unnecessary sounds. It's your turn. Gently stepping on the boards with the grace of a domestic cat, you overcome the obstacle without any problems. So luckily, thanks to our agility skill, we were able to sneak through. After another quarter of an hour of strenuous wanderings and games of hide and seek with sleepy guards, you finally manage to reach the cherished armory. While you and two comrades are watching the situation, Bartholomew is busy with the lock. You were starting to get worried, but a couple of minutes later he draws your attention with a low whistle and smiling invites you with a gesture to the now open door. The choice of weapons and equipment that await you turns out to be not very impressive, but it still looks very solid. Now, that's a bit disappointing. I don't really use swords, but I will... shield. So, I mean, most of this isn't very useful, but I'm going to take it, because if you recall, I did purchase that chest, and we can sell this. So I've got... I don't know if that is better than my helmet, but if this stuff is useless, I can still sell it to the blacksmith. Having picked up everything you like, you hastily embark on the return journey. Luck seems to be smiling at you and the journey goes without incident. But suddenly in the dark corridor, one of the doors opens before your nose. And you find yourself face to face with a guard emerging from there. Hardly making out your outline in the dark, he asks who is in front of him. You don't know what to do and glance at Bartholomew and his comrades who've gone a little ahead. They desperately signal something with their hands, but you cannot distinguish their gestures. The situation quickly becomes critical. We don't have a point, we don't have a way to get around this, and I think our best option is going to be to try and knock him out because we do have a strength of 3. Realizing how desperate your situation is, you make the decision that seems to be the only right one, and gathering all your strength into a fist, land a sweeping hook to the jaw of the guard. Despite the fact that you strike with all your strength, the punch turns out to be too weak. The guard instantly recovers and grabs his sword. By some miracle dodging his blows, you run away with all your might. Somewhere ahead of you, your comrades are also running in panic. In the chaos of the chase, it becomes every man for himself, and you quickly go astray and get lost in the maze of tower passages, buzzing with the loud voices and heavy stamping of feet. Only by sheer luck do you manage to get out and back to the camp in a roundabout way. Still not believing in your miraculous escape, you fall asleep. In the morning, far from most pleasant news awaits you. The whole camp is buzzing with rumours this night a group of spies attacked the castle. No one knows exactly what they were trying to pull off. However, thanks to the vigilance of the guards, their dirty plans were thwarted. Are you sure about that? Oh. So, 2 of my companions died, and another was captured alive. According to rumours, he's sitting in the castle dungeons and soon will get executed. If lucky, everyone will be able to see it before dispatch. After such news, you can only shrug your shoulders. So the outcome of that heist was that pretty much I was the only person who made it out alive, and a bunch of the other soldiers were killed, and Bartholomew is now awaiting execution. So we now have a quest to spring him from jail. And you know I'm not leaving without my bro. So what we need to do is we need to find out where he's been kept, and I know who can tell me. It's going to be my buddy, the sergeant. We ask him about the thief. I'm sure the fellow deserves such a fate, but you can't help him with everything. He's now awaiting execution and will be very lucky if he simply gets his head chopped off and not quartered or stretched out on a rack. I heard he was put in the dungeon of the Eastern Tower, the most impregnable in the entire castle. There's clearly no way out of there, even with his dexterity. However, they say the valiant guards have beat him to a pulp on the first day. Won't be surprised if the poor lad has kicked the bucket already. This is clearly no laughing matter, God rest his soul. So we now have a location for our friend. We're going to go head over to the Eastern Tower. Despite your decisive attitude and desire to free your comrade at all costs, you still do not fully understand how exactly you're going to pull this off. Looking at the outline of the Eastern Tower, blackening in the distance, you think of various options in your mind. You can try and sneak into the tower. Such a mission will be virtually impossible, and the risk will be not just high, but very high. Needless to say, you may pay for any, even the slightest mistake with your life. The second option is to enter the tower under the guise of one of the castle garrison soldiers. If you can guess the time and act under cover of night, there will be a chance to slip in. However, in order for such a scheme to work, you'll need some equipment so that in the dark you can pass off as a full-fledged soldier. Without a helmet and armour, even the most bad ones, such a scheme will never work. Or you can try to bribe one of the guards. Bartholomew and his buddies had a low opinion of the guards, and it may seem well that for a handful of ringing coins one of them would agree to lower their vigilance for a while. Now, I have an okay sneaking skill, but I'm not going to bank on that. I can try and sneak in as one of the other guards, but I don't have the armour. So I don't have the skill to sneak. I don't have the armour. But what I do have is a fat stack of cash from working at the Blacksmith. So I'm going to try and bribe someone. Let's see how we go. The guard does not hurry to name the exact price, giving you the opportunity to offer first. So I'm going to offer 20 florins. The amount you offer clearly does not cause much delight in the guard, but at least makes him think. After a couple of minutes of reflection, he nevertheless agrees to help you, but emphasises his participation will only be limited to assistance in getting inside the tower, and everything else is your own business. He also adds, from the moment you get inside you become an enemy. He will give you a head start of a few minutes, but then if he notices you, he will immediately raise the alarm. At the agreed time, the guard lets you into the tower through a secret passage and then leaves you to yourself. You have no choice but to wander along the dark corridors alone. All that's left is to trust your gut. Let's start with the lower floor. You decide the prisoners will most likely be kept somewhere in the basements and decide to start your search from the lower floor. Moving in the shadows and trying not to make any noise, you slowly look through the basements and after a while stumble upon holding cells. They all turn out to be empty. Except for the last one, where you find Bartholomew, badly beaten but still alive. With the help of a wooden bench found nearby, you manage to remove the bars from the hinges and release Bartholomew to freedom. Praying to God that no one heard the noise you made, you carefully begin to get out. But things are not going well for you. Roughed up by the guards, Bartholomew barely moves his feet. With each step he takes, it becomes more obvious he won't make it back. Using your impressive physical strength, you prop your friend onto yourself, helping him to walk. Providence continues to be on your side in spite of anything. The way out goes just as well. You are able to hide in the shadows from the few guards you come across on the way, and very soon you safely get out of the tower. Back at the camp, Bartholomew thanks you for his release in every way possible, and promises to never forget what you did for him. So we have now increased our virtue, increased our respect with the soldiers, and we've now earned one of the best bros in the game, Bartholomew. So let's have a chat with our new bro. Cheers, brother, what's up? Any news? I met a fortune teller here the other day. Said I could live a long and happy life. Well, I don't know, if you keep doing heists like this, I don't think your life's going to be very long. If I steer clear of wars, adventures, and mysterious women, that is. That's how a happy life? I think she should be a charlatan. What a story. Now, it might not seem much, but Bartholomew is an incredibly useful character. In a time when there's war, where there are several different factions, and also when you can't trust the man to the left or the right of you, having a few bros can always make the difference. One good bro is worth 100 other acquaintances, and Bartholomew is the most broest of bros, so he's going to help us out, and he's also going to unlock a number of different missions that we can complete, as long as we don't mind walking on the wild side from time to time, committing the odd crime. But we're going to continue our training, and we've got the battle coming up soon. With our heist successful and our new friend Bartholomew rescued from prison, our next goal is to prepare for the battle. We have an upcoming fight that's going to be very brutal. So what we can do is sell these items that we stole that we don't need, and try and get our hands on something that will help us win this next fight, or at least give us more of a fighting chance. Now, the first item, the one that I'm really looking for, is some sort of healing item. I really could use it. Some armor would also help. No healing items. We'll put a pin in this for now. What I'm going to do is, that is a lot of money for an armor, but that is also a fair bit of protection too. So I'm thinking that might actually be a good purchase, because we have no armor at all. You know what? I'm going to get it. So what I can do now is go to my character and go to my inventory, and we've now got some armor. It's not much, but anything that's going to help our survivability. So the next thing I'm going to do is continue doing a bit of training. So let's do a bit of prayer. And then I'm going to get my melee skill up to 6. Now we're very broke. So what I can do is go and start to scavenge around the city, or the outskirts of the city, to find some things we can sell, or to get some items for crafting. You get out of the camp and go to the surrounding forest to replenish your supplies, heading towards the unknown adventures lying ahead. Following one of the narrow paths in the woods, you suddenly meet a wandering monk. The Holy Father gives you his blessing and warns you against unnecessary violence and shedding the blood of innocent people. Virtue increased by 5. And then he leaves you to collect herbs alone. Now we've got some nice herbs here, and I can't actually make healing herbs yet, but what I can do is we can get these poisonous plants at $15 each. Very nice. And I do have room to grab 1 healing herb. Beautiful. The rest of your way goes back smoothly without any more adventures, so what we can do is go to the trader and hope that he has no healing items for us. So what we'll do, we're going to sell these poisonous plants. Boom, that was a nice little profitable operation. I mean, that Gambeson would have been nice. It's cheaper too. Well, it is what it is. At least we've got some decent armor. So what I can do now is go to the camp. We're still very tired, so I'm going to pray. Then we're going to gamble. Then we're going to do some more prayer. And gamble some more. And we seem to be doing well with the gambling. We're winning more than we're losing. I probably could have done some work at the forge now, but it's all good. I'll take the money. Let it ride, baby. Made probably about 20-30 gold just then. After spending a week at Castle Dunkirk, the army begins its march to the southwest. Your regiment has been assigned to the advance guard led by the king's son, Edward of Woodstock, the prince. That Woodstock? I don't think there's going to be any peace and love where we're headed. With about half a day's march separating him from the main force, Edward's main goal is to scout ahead and make sure there's no major French reinforcements in sight. Arriving in Canberra, you see a large French convoy with supplies that enters through the main gate. The town obviously has not been prepared to handle a long siege and stands vulnerable. The young prince, eager to prove himself to his father, chooses a daring move to try and take the city by charging through the open gates. Time is of the essence, so Edward leads the attack immediately. So I don't think, there's not much I can do. I've got my armor, I've got my shield. It's in reasonably good condition. I can't equip anything in the way of healing items, so we're just going to have to bust on through. Concealed by the forest surrounding Canberra, the English managed to get close enough to catch the defenders by surprise. The prince spearheads the cavalry charge forward, crushing everything under them and breaking into the city. You and your fellow militiamen try to follow in their tracks as fast as you can, but the difference in speed is too great. By the time you finally get to the gates, there's already a large group of enemy soldiers, guards and militiamen gathering to block your way. So here we have our first battle. We don't need a tutorial. Trust me, bro, I know what I'm doing. Now, our first enemy, he's very, very green. He doesn't have any special equipment. And I really want to try and take him down as fast as I can. So I'm going to go for a body shot. Oh, I'm glad that missed. We'll get my neck slit open. It'll be a very, very short fight. Let's see if we can go for a headshot. Yeah. You're not looking too good, son. We just got to pour it on. Next shot. Yeehaw. Now he's hurt pretty bad, and he'll probably bleed out. So what I can do, because I've got another fight coming, I can actually swap to a defensive stance and recover my stamina. Now he's still bleeding. He's gonna bleed out. So I'm going to again. It's all about trying to capitalize. I know there's another fight coming up, and I could keep wailing on him, but I know the bleeding, that bleeding is going to do the job for me. So let's just recover again. And he's bled out. Now we've got another militiaman, but thankfully because I waited, we're still reasonably fresh. So what I can do is again, we're going to go for a body shot. And because of the money I spent on armor and the fact I'm in a defensive stance, we can outlast him. Now the reason I chose a defensive stance is because these guys don't have defensive weapons. They've got no choice but to go on the offense. He's got a sword and he's just attacking all the time. I just have to outlast him, use my shield, use my armor, wait for him to run out of stamina and capitalize. Now I can go for a powerful thrust, and I think that is now might be the time. Beautiful. Now we did take a hit, but thankfully my armor bore most of the damage. So I'm going to recover. And he's recovering as well. Let's go for another headshot. Boom. Now he's on his last legs. We just have to, but then again, I'm also, look at this, I'm winded. So I can't keep this up. If we continue this on beyond any further rounds than this, even if I rest, I'm probably still going to be pretty winded. So let's try and recover some stamina. And I've got to do 11 damage. So let's just focus on limb damage. Very nice. Now, like I said, I'm very, very tired, so I'm just going to stick with the defensive stance. We're going to recover. Let's finish this guy off. Right for the dome. Boom. Now, we got him through the head. Unable to sustain your attack, the enemies are slowly giving in and soon begin to hastily retreat. With a pause in the action, you take a look around and see several bodies of your dead foes. Looting, especially during active combat, is generally frowned upon in the army. This, however, does not deter many soldiers, predominantly from poorer backgrounds, from pillaging their rivals' corpses. Their motives are easy to understand. In war, even a single piece of good equipment can make the difference between life and death. Point being, the armor I had definitely saved me. A few hits got deflected by my armor, but I do need to remember I'm going to have to repair it after the fight. Now we're death's door, so what I'm going to do is I am going to rest. And we're going to, I have no healing items. And my shield is damaged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out my shield. Now you can see why I had a spare. Always carry a spare shield. Due to the confusion, you managed to overcome the poorly organised defenders in a swift and rather hectic fight. Their tactical retreat to the walls quickly escalates into a chaotic rout. You storm the town proper, hot on their heels. Inside the walls, however, the situation is already changing. The prince's knights are struggling to hold against the superior numbers of the French, and slowly but surely are falling back towards the main gate. The prince could use some infantry support, but rushing to his aid may prove to be a dangerous undertaking. Not willing to leave Prince Edward in danger, the Earl quickly calls for volunteers to join the rescue effort. The rest are told to hold the city gates for a safer retreat thereafter. It seems only seasoned and fierce warriors are joining the Earl. It's unlikely someone will point a finger at you if you refuse. Especially given you are wounded and exhausted, barely even able to stand straight. This is clearly a good opportunity to prove yourself to the Earl, maybe to the Prince himself, but right now on the other side of the scale lies no less than your own life. The question is whether or not this is the time to risk it. Do we go? Now we are heavily winded. I didn't take a lot of damage, but I just don't think we're in a state for another fight. And I think sometimes in this game, discretion is the better part of valor. You make the level-headed decision to stay at the gate. The Earl and the volunteers arrive in time to prevent the French from encircling the prince's retinue. The combined force of the two groups was just enough to fight their way back to the gate. The battered down town defenders hesitate to give chase and instead settle with the status quo restored. As you fall back to safety and catch your breath, you are slowly filled with the proud realization you just managed to survive your first battle. While you come back to your senses and tend your wounds, the main force of the English army is steadily approaching the city. Columns of people, horsemen and wagons, all stretching for several miles, flow from a horizon like an endless river, slowly pouring around the city from all sides. Having found the sergeant among the survivors, you ask him what will happen now. He responds with only one word: siege. And with that, we have completed the first siege, the first battle, and now we have to undertake the first siege. Over the next few days, you watch as a now full-fledged city gradually grows around the walls of Cambrai. Thousands of people, hundreds of tents and awnings, dozens of various siege and assault weapons, long lines of convoys arrive each day from almost all directions. You would not dare to call this a mere camp any longer. According to the sergeant, who is constantly aware of the goings-on, the king will not delay the siege. The success of the entire campaign depends on the speed of this attack, and further delay will give the French a chance to thoroughly gather their strength. This is why the usual siege tactic, winning the city through a war of attrition, is not going to fly with Cambrai. The sergeant says the assault should take place in about a week, when the siege engines are fully deployed and the rest of the reinforcements have caught up with the army. For now, all you can do is take advantage of what peaceful days remain. You have received a salary in accordance with your rank, 65 florins. You receive a bonus payment in accordance with your prestige level, 14 florins. So looking at my character now, my prestige has gone up, my virtue has gone up, and my abilities and my overall talents have improved as well. Now we're going to leave it here because the next siege is even longer and more involved than the previous battle, but I've absolutely been loving the game. There is a lot of strategy in it. It's all about time management. It's about making the right decision at the right time, and sometimes, depending on what decisions you make, you can get a vastly different outcome. Having Bartholomew on my side greatly changed the outcome of future battles for me. Fighting alone can make some things easier and sometimes some things harder, but it's all down to your personal choices. There are a number of different friends you can make, there are a number of different characters you can romance as well, and depending on what decisions you make, who you talk to and who you become an enemy with, you'll get a vastly different change to the game. Now I've really been enjoying this, and I really do think that anyone who's a bit of a fan of games that mix several different genres absolutely should check this game out. I can see why it's been very highly recommended on Steam, and I can see why you guys have been enjoying it too. So I wanted to say big thanks to the developers. I do hope that at some point I can show you some of the DLC for the game, because that is similarly very well received. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and hopefully you'll join me next time when we check out another indie game. Until then, Incarnate, out.